opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Boy, was last night a go-around for the City Council. The first issue that I want to address is a gentleman was arrested last night at the City Council, and it's a sad state of affairs when control of the City Council has fallen apart and a person in the gallery gets arrested. He was asked to leave several times, and he kept demanding a cause. Give me the cause, give me the cause. And City Council President Joe Camara turned around and said, because I said so. And he goes, oh, you're a 5-year-old. Now, you know, both parties in this situation are just as guilty. But I think that it speaks volumes, and it was embarrassing not only to the City Council, but also to the people of Fall River. And I personally would like to apologize to the city clerk, the assistant city clerk, the city council secretary, and everyone present, because that behavior by both parties just was not acceptable. Chip, I mean, I was surprised you weren't there. I can only imagine what would have happened if you were.
Well, I was covering the debate between Carol Fiola and David Steinoff right here in our own studio. I think that's an important election also. So I would have loved to have been there. You know, I normally, where you were carrying the ball, and you know, in order to effectively report on that debate, I think that we are going to give it some time today on today's show because it's a very, very important election. I wasn't there. I've heard you know, stories about what happened, and obviously you were there, and you know, I know you know exactly what went on, and from what I've been told. This was precipitated, I guess the individual who was arrested had given in citizens' input, and then Emerald Gaudette got up and he began to recall his names, and I don't know what he called them, but punks or whatever, and idiots or whatever. And I guess Council President Camara wasn't, he kind of gave him a little latitude with that before he called him in, and I guess that frustrated some people because when, and let me preface that by saying I think it's wrong for any side to name call. I mean, when you're down there in citizens' input, you have to deal with issues, and it's wrong on both sides, and two wrongs do not make a right. And the fact is, I think that it was Emerald Gaudette's name calling that precipitated this individual to get up and begin to create a scene, and he was wrong too. I mean, you know, you say your piece, and then if you're not happy with what the council president did, you can come to the next meeting and express your feelings, or you can get on talk shows the next day or write a letter to the editor and make it public. The whole thing just completely, from what I've been told, it seems fell apart, and it fell apart due to the fact that apparently the president has completely lost control of the council meetings, and had he maybe shut down Emerald Gaudette, the whole thing wouldn't have happened. But basically, we don't have two wrongs, we have three wrongs here. I think Emerald Gaudette was way out of line. I think the individual was out of line for not listening to the council president. But then again, the council president has to be looked at for not controlling the situation.
You know, and the thing is you know, I hated hearing it when I was sitting in the city council chamber, to the point that I stepped out momentarily just so I could take a step back from all of it, in that they said, see, that's what these recallers are doing. That's what these recalls are doing. Just because somebody signs the petition to engage the recall does not mean the person's a recaller. It's everyone's right to sign that petition. And because somebody is vocalizing their dissatisfaction with city policy, city practice, or what's going on, also does not mean that they're a recaller. So don't paint everyone with one broad brush. We have this all the time, and now we have the lawyer for the mayor, Mr. Halpern, trying to say that all the recallers are, thugs, hooligans, punks. And we make jokes about that all the time with miscreants. But, the truth be known, these people are, patriots. They're revolutionaries. And they're trying to make a change in Fall River for the better. And whether you want to think this is slanted or not is irrelevant. The point of the matter is a lot of these people are putting in a lot of their personal time and taking time out of their working days just to be sure that your voice as a citizen is heard.
And I agree. Whether you agree with the recall or not, I think that the recall has been responsible for both sides becoming re-engaged and reinvigorated in the process. And I think that will create something that's really, really necessary for us to have good government. That's participation. And I think that whether you're for or against a recall, people seem to have picked a side, and regardless of what side you picked, you're probably going to vote, and that's really a great thing. I just hope that this becomes a reality, that on not only in the November election, which I think should be our practice run for voting. Everybody should get out there and vote. There are some important elections there, but also on December 16th. And without the vote, without the people voting, we do not control government. And I think that this recall, whether you're for or against a recall, it's about basically, without kind of seeming overly dramatic, but it's about taxation without representation. It's about representation with taxation, or whatever you want to say. But the key is the only way, or lack of representation with taxation, but the reality is that the only way we're ever going to change anything, whether it's change the way the recallers want it, or change the way the people who want recallers want it, and changing in the city council, is to only elect the people who we feel are representing our best interests. And I think regardless of you can't deny the fact that the people who created this recall are responsible for everybody getting involved. Even the people that dislike the recall are engaged again, and that's really important.
It is. And I think, Councilor Pereira last night, made that statement very clear at the city council meeting that, whether you like this or not, they've never seen so many people come to a city council meeting and had so many people come and voice their concerns during citizens' input time. And to me, I mean, it just appears, and again, I don't want to assume anything or not, but it appears that citizens' input time to the council president and even to some of the councilors is becoming more of a hindrance to them than an acceptance. And, that bothers me. But moving on from this arrest, Dan Rigo decided to present a resolution for a vote of no confidence. And it went exactly as was thought, which is really sad. It went 4-3-1 with one absent. And the person who was absent was Councilor Pat Casey, who, from what I understand, just underwent a procedure at the hospital. Whether you like Pat or not, we wish you the best, Pat, and we hope you recover well. But 4 people for, 3 abstentions. You have to wonder what's, well, I should say four people for, 3 against, and 1 abstention.
Well, as you said, that's exactly the way we would have predicted it. So we have 4 people who obviously, this is my opinion, who have a rational thought process.
Right.
We have 3 people without the courage to take a position, and we have 1 person that's a little delusionary. And I will explain why. Listen, whether you are a Will Flanagan proponent or opponent, anybody with a rational mind who believes that Will Flanagan or any other human being on this planet can effectively give 100% of his concentration to running a city, especially a city that's in the chaos that this community is, and give it his full attention, being under attack from so many different angles. Criminal charges, civil charges, pending civil charges, recall elections. I mean, the vote of no confidence isn't a vote on his humanity or whether you like or dislike him. The vote of no confidence is basically your confidence is in his ability to govern effectively. And anybody who thinks anybody can govern effectively with all this going on in their life, I don't know. I've seen people postpone world championship fights. I've seen people withdraw from elections with far less going on in their life than Will Flanagan has going on in his life. So I think that, you know, it's not a vote against Will Flanagan. It was a referendum on, do you believe that this man can effectively govern? Do you have confidence that he can give the city 100%? And contrary to what he says, I believe there was a straw poll done, and I think that 3 or 4 councilors said he should resign, period, and just get out of the way to let the city move forward. And I think 3 others said that he should resign temporarily. But of course, that was an off-the-record kind of thing. But the fact is, that means 7 people basically said that they didn't have confidence in him in one form or another. But then when they got in front of a camera, they didn't have the courage to do that.
Well, and, you know, there's a belief that the 3 people who abstained from voting, which was City Council President Joe Camara, Councilor Jason Correa, and Councilor Paul De Silva. He actually said something besides
Present.
abstained from the vote because they have a criminal event coming in, you know, a criminal investigation currently pending, so they did not want to have that happen. But again, this is what happens, and you know, we go from there. And I noticed that our guest has arrived.
Yeah. Let me just wrap that up quickly. You know, that's one of the things that we really need to remember when we go out and vote in November, and we go out again on December 16th. Last night was an example of elected officials not having the courage to take a position. To abstain from a vote is not doing your job as an elected representative of the people. And individuals who are elected should have the courage to take a position. And with that, we're going to segue into a state election. I said yesterday I wasn't at that council meeting because I was at the debate between incumbent Carol Fiola and her opponent, Dr. David Steinoff, and we have a guest from that debate. We said we were going to talk about it. David Steinoff, please join us.
Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, David.
Good to see you both. Thank you.
Mic yourself.
Do my best.
Well, I'll begin the talk about it because I did attend the debate. It was a lively, to say the least, debate. I think that you acquitted yourself very well. I think that there was a clear distinction between your positions on many things and Ms. Fiola, Mrs. Fiola, and I think that you know, it really, I encourage all our viewers to watch it. It will be replayed on this channel, and I encourage you all to watch the debate. And with that, we'll let Dave say a little bit to begin with.
Sure. Pick up that debate wherever you possibly can. You can catch it on our website, votesteinhoff.com, Steinhoff for rep at Gmail. Please get on. He's telling me to look at this camera, I guess. Okay, I'm sorry. Please get on those cameras. Get on those websites. Take a look at the debate. Make your own judgments. I think we did extremely well last night. We brought up specific bills. We talked about specific problems. Most importantly, that Mrs. Fiola, though she claims to, is doing nothing to bring in local aid. She really hasn't stepped aside from I think the term is she's marching in lockstep with Speaker DeLeo. And I kept repeating that. By doing that, by voting with Beacon Hill all the time, she's not doing this local area as much good as it needs. And we need it more than any other place in the state.
Yeah, well, and with that, since I was at the debate, I was watching the debate, and you can clarify something. I know you had a little debate about an issue that there was an amendment to a bill which basically stated, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that any additional funds that the state accrued, 50% of those excess funds would then be turned over to local aid to come to our city, and Representative Fiola said, well, we already met and we determined it, and this was just a window dressing bill that realistically, we had already made an agreement, and it's not really the way things are done. And I just want you to clarify, because in my mind, the opportunity to take excess money,
Should
which
always
is
be
our
looked at.
tax money,
Right.
and should it, and say that we're going to get some of it back, and you vote against it. I mean, I'd just like you to expand on that,
All right.
that one little
Did
issue.
you catch in the debate, and if you didn't watch it, you'll see it when you do pick it up. She kept trying to hop on the idea of being a Republican, Tea Party, etc. I'm not in the Tea Party. There are Tea Party people elsewhere, but that has nothing to do with this campaign. I am a Republican, and I'm proud to be a Republican, but I've said many times over, I'll work bipartisan, but that's Carol's biggest defense. I don't know if you remember last year, a little sidestep, she put out a mailer at the very end that showed some crazy dentist ripping a kid's tooth out with a pair of pliers, and all it said is, the dentist is a Republican. If that's her biggest pitch to try to win votes, well then, Carol, you should have lost last year and you will lose this year. She tried it again this year. She tried to suggest that those bills requesting, their amendments requesting that some of the excess revenue, we have more taxes coming in than our budget's writing up for, or than our budget needs. But that excess revenue is always siphoned off through the general budget or some other means to be used for projects up near Boston, for their MBTA, for other projects that they need to keep their constituents happy. What the bill suggested was, when the revenue is indicated, or when the revenue was added up, we have the opportunity to discuss using 50% of it for local aid to be dispersed throughout the state. 50% of that excess revenue. That was one bill. Another bill suggested adding $50 million to the existing budget, specifically for local aid to cities like ours. There are certain legislators, not just Republican, that get it. They understand that the cities like Fall River, need that money to make things work, to get us up to speed so we can compete with Newton, Wellesley, Cambridge. But she actually put the kibosh on it. She didn't even understand it. I half wonder if she did it willingly or unwittingly. But either way, she voted against that local aid.
Well, I think that I have to interject here, because I know that CJ was once a Republican, and so I don't want to see, and I am a proud independent, and I have always voted for the candidate that I feel will best represent our area. And I think that that's important, because I'll remind some of our viewers, because there seems to be, this thing about if you're a Republican, you're immediately not with the people. I'll remind you all that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and Theodore Roosevelt, who established the national park system, was a Republican. And we've had Republican representatives for many, many years. Margaret Heckler represented this area very well, was a Republican. And I'm not saying that to promote the Republican Party. I'm saying that so everyone understands we have to look at the person, we have to look at the way they represent us. The party really is irrelevant. And that's one of the problems we face in America today. People are labeled, and it's used to disenfranchise them from a segment of the voters. And we should look at the issues, look at their platforms, and select the best representative for us, regardless of party. So with that with that being said, I think that we've got to get back on point. And I'll let CJ throw.
Well,
a question.
you talk about this representative, Carol Fiola, who every time I've actually been in a room with her, she turns her head and walks away. Whether or not she knows whether I'm one of her constituents or not is irrelevant. You just don't do that as a politician. But in the reality, here was one of her economic development ideas, which was, let's put some pretty lights on the bridge. That will attract people to Fall River.
No,
We're going to spend $500,000 on putting pretty lights on the bridge. We're going to spend $1.5 million that she wants to, her and her husband want to do. They want to put dancing water on the waterfront.
It's ludicrous.
It's a waste of money.
We have people who are starving for jobs. We have the lowest per capita income in the state. spare Lawrence. They might be beating us out slightly. And by the way, that $500,000 she talked about was just to initiate the planning and the study for those lights. The cost could rise up to $4 and $5 million. I don't know if that was clear.
No, she didn't make that clear, and that's the whole thing.
$500,000 just to get the project started, to have lights so that the people on the way to the Cape to spend their tourism dollars can have a better or prettier ride over our bridge. That's ludicrous. We want them coming into Fall River to see some of our incredible restaurants, to see some of our shops, and start building up the waterfront and the downtown the way it should be.
Well, I have to, seriously question what her incentive is for being a state rep. Again, she doesn't have a lot of background in it. In her history as a governor's counselor, if you look at many, if not all, of the judges who were appointed, which all those appointments go through the governor's council, they were substantial campaign donors to Carol's campaign.
Routinely. We called her on that last time.
Yeah.
She was constantly taking donations, even though other governor's council members refused, those same people, refused to take donations from those same judicial nominees. Carol took them, and not only that, but on Judge Curran, she took a donation from him and from family members, which is illegal, taking surrogate donations.
But this is the nature of politics in Massachusetts. And my biggest concern is also the fact that, and again, it's a rumor. We can't get the allegation to be confirmed by anyone publicly, but that her husband used his position to also influence donors to her campaign by basically shaking down people who are looking for a business. You want a TIF?
Well, while we're on that, before we get back to, I want to see how David would use that conceivably $4 or $5 million after we get.
So
the
would I.
initial
I would
study
love to know.
for the city of Fall River. But I want to touch upon one fact that there was. I believe you did a study and you correlated the donations from FroEd between the Mayor Flanagan and Carol Fiola, and there seemed to be a link.
Oh, they're almost mirror images. Mayor Flanagan received enormous donations from those same members of FroEd, board members. Carol received them. And actually, because we were able to do it through 2012 and 2013 on OCPF, Carol starting her campaign and donation acquirements late in 2012, the mayor had all of 2012. What actually happened is Carol nearly outpaced him. He received something over 11,000 in that time span. She received over 9,000, but on a much shorter time span. So she was getting heavier donations from those same members. And what does that mean? Do people do it because they've known her for 20 years, or are they doing it because they want to assure that pay to play? They have a state representative that will help them get through some issue at some time that'll help their business. That's not the way the system works, or should work. It's happening all the time. Just what we were talking about with the judicial nominees. When she said, that just means they have confidence in me. And I said it last year during the debate. Well, they were confident that you would vote for them when it came time to nominate them as a judge. That's what they were confident in, and that's wrong.
And so now let's get back to the real meat of this. Now, when you get to Boston, okay?
Yes, sir.
What is going to be the distinct difference? As I said, Carol said, I'm going to spend $500,000 studying light bulbs, and then I'm going to spend another $4 or $5 million to put in these light bulbs, and who knows how long that will take, since it took about 10 years to paint the Braga Bridge, so God knows how long. But how could you use $4.5 to $5 million to the city in what you feel is a more appropriate way?
No, first of all, let's re-educate our workforce. We have an enormous number of workers who want to work, people that want to go back. They may have a transportation issue. They may not just be trained well enough to take some of the jobs that are available. So let's offer some more programs like that. The Chamber of Commerce is doing a partnership program with BCC, with UMass Dartmouth, to try to help people move toward higher education and incentivize and increase learning, maybe going into a different vocation. Those are programs that will help people get back to work, and that's what our people want. They want the chance to work. They want that paycheck so they can begin to contribute back to the tax system, back to our state. And how about the waterfront? Kenny Fiola actually embarrassed himself going at larger steamer. I don't know if many people remember this, but it was a Portuguese company, a large worldwide shipping concern that wanted to put short sea shipping, mid-sized container ships right here in Fall River and make us a hub, maybe servicing all of New England. When they came down to meet with the chamber, with the mayor basically walked out. Kenny Fiola, his surrogate, went in and embarrassed himself, embarrassed them, suggested we don't have enough storage. What do we all see around Fall River? Empty mills, empty waterfront. We could service that storage somehow. Weaver's Cove, use Borden Remington, whatever we need to do to get that storage here, which means the short sea shipping would bring in jobs. How could he work to keep that out? That question remains. Is it because he wants to help one of his special interest friends put a marina down there instead? Or maybe help them buy some land for a restaurant? As you pointed out to me in a conversation, Jerry Remy is about to go. Jerry Remy's, a nice restaurant, is about to be sold because we can't support that kind of a restaurant right now. How? With a per capita income of $20,000. Are we going to support higher-end restaurants?
We said that at the beginning.
Actually, it's 34. It's
34 household.
34 household, yeah, but the per capita is 20.
Yep.
And it's the, thank heavens for Lawrence, otherwise we'd be last in everything. I hate to besmirch Lawrence, but the fact is, without Lawrence, we would be. But see, that brings up a very critical point. We've only got like less than 3 minutes, but the fact is that the business as usual. I mean, we've got 3 minutes. We're going to give you some time. Your perception of her time as a rep. A lot of people seem to think it's same old business as usual. And when you go up there, what's going to be the difference with David Steinoff up there as our state representative?
Let's not lose our way. I said it last night during the debate. We're talking about two people, Ken Fiola and Carol Fiola, who collectively bilk the taxpayers for $250,000 per year. She's doing this job so that Fiola franchise will have an extension right up to Beacon Hill. That power grab is exactly what she's doing this for. It's not to come out here and represent the people. She didn't even want to listen to one of her own constituents, you, about the retiree program. You took the time to draft that document, spend an awful lot of time on it to figure out a way to help save money for seniors, people on the retiree program that just took a beating from the evisceration the mayor did on the health program. But you went to bat for them. You put that together. You approached her, not interested. You went to Alan Sylvia. Now Alan Sylvia and State Rep Michael Rodrigues and I believe Paul Schmidt are taking that ball. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I know that Senator Rodrigues and Alan Sylvia appeared at the last retirees meeting, and they were the ones who signs on later. To me, is a dangling appendage. The fact is that it was Alan Sylvia when I said we need this to help the seniors. Because of the prescription costs and what the city's done to them. It was Alan Sylvia that picked up the ball and carried it. And without Alan Sylvia, and ironically enough, Carol Fiola is my representative. But that should have been her.
It should have been her that would have been happy to take a bill like that forward, to have something that you worked on. So she says she goes out there and listens to people. I don't know who she's listening to other than her close friends and special interest people.
Exactly.
She needs to listen to the voters and what we can possibly do to get the city back on track. I said it last night, we have the most potential of any city in this area. We need that local aid to realize our potential. Think about some of the towns we compete with, Taunton, Brockton, other towns similar to us, gateway cities. Do they have the waterways we do? Do they have the rail we do? Do they have the highway access that we do? And the answer is no. We have it, we should use it, and we will be back on track.
Well, there's never enough time for this show. We want to thank you for watching Spindle City Straight Talk. We'd like to thank Dr. David Steinoff, candidate for state representative of the 6th Bristol District, and hopefully you will be elected and continue to watch us. We're always here for you.
Thank you very much.
Our listeners, Dr. Steinoff, pleasure to have you here. And remember, everybody out there, vote early, vote often.